Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another video episode of Getting Cheesy with Van and Cheezy. I am Van.
I'm Cheezy.
You may or may not have known that the NFL dropped the 2020 schedule this week, planning to start on time. September 12th, I think, is the regular season will start, and we are rolling from there. Roger Goodell sent a memo out to all 32 teams, I think it was last week, basically outlining protocols that allow for the teams to come back to camp and stuff like that. No more than 50% of the people in the building, 75 people max, masks and all that kind of stuff. So with that, it seems that we might have our football on time.
I mean, it says, today's May 12th, it says that all of these precautions that Goodell is putting in place should be in place by the 15th. So just a couple of days from now.
Jeez Louise.
We're talking about having all of the protocols in place by then. The safety precautions, the limited personnel. I mean, it looks good for starting. We're not quite to OTAs yet, but that should be coming up soon.
As soon as you can do it, that's better.
As soon as you can do it. So, very interesting. I'm somewhat surprised, but I think just like everyone else, people do want to get to work. Maybe that's a controversial line, but I should maybe say, people do want to see football. I think people are anxious to get sports back.
Need sports. Need it. People like FanDuel is still a thing, right? The sports betting thing. People are voting on everything. Everything. They're making draft bets. They've been I'm sure they're betting on paper towel stock probably.
I did a virtual happy hour, and I honestly sent a link to marble racing off of YouTube, and we watched a little bit of marble racing during a work happy hour. I mean, the limited sports is tough.
It is tough. I actually did a virtual beard competition this past weekend.
Wow, so fancy. Yeah. Beards are coming into the 21st century.
I got 4th place.
There you go.
Well, here's the thing. Only 1st, 2nd, and 3rd got ranked. Everybody else got 4th.
Oh.
It's fine. Anyways, back to the NFL schedule and more weird shit. Something's going to happen this year that has not happened since 1991. We're going to have 2 teams playing back-to-back. Weird, right?
That is weird. Are these teams anyone that we give a fuck about?
No. So it's... Week 10... Week 10 will have Jets at Dolphins. Week 11, both teams will be on bye. Week 12, Dolphins at Jets.
Wow. I mean, that's weird. And, I hope in memory of Shula that the Dolphins can trounce the Jets twice. But otherwise, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. Well, you had a couple things you wanted to say about maybe having an NFL season with no fans in the stadium?
So there's been a contingency plan that I've seen roaming around the internet. CBS Sports took a little bit of a dive, again, analyzing some of the Packers' financials and different things, and trying to find a balanced approach where there's not just a huge loss in revenue, in profits, in the net income that the NFL receives. So there are some plans. The schedule is such that it could be that in-person viewing doesn't start until October. Now, given that there's so many unknowns, the NFL has put out the schedule so far where they're intending on opening night that we could have some fans in the crowds, depending on how things go. Obviously, Goodell planning for social distancing there, but there is a contingency plan to have no fans in place. And the biggest news that comes out of that is that it obviously, besides the fact that there won't be any fans, particularly into October, is that there's a huge effect on advertising. So the buildings are asking, hey man, I know the 40-foot rule exists, which is you can't do any local advertising below 40 feet.
What's that?
40. That's
in a stadium.
In a stadium, yeah. So you can't do local advertising below 40 feet. Or sorry, cannot have local advertising space sorry, 40 feet above.
I was going to say that.
Sorry.
I did not know that.
So it says, for context, the goal poles top out at 35 feet. So it's at about that height.
So we can still have our using your sausage banner in Green Bay?
Well, what they want to do is they want to have more advertising, because they can't charge the same amount when they don't have 70,000 people sitting in the stands for these types of advertising. They're expecting a lot of loss. So they want to be able to make some changes to that. And they're also talking about, will ads make sounds? All these different things about when you're planning for advertising in a stadium when there's nobody there except for the players and the officials.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
What do you think this does for home field advantage?
So home field advantage, we talked about this. One of the leading views on that is that home field advantage exists primarily because of the pressure that refs feel from the crowd. So I think it'll reduce home field advantage a little bit.
I mean, what about the players? Some players get super hyped up on like having the fans around, and some players probably play better with just silence. Right?
I mean, that could be true. I think that I think this will further minimize home field advantage. That's my take.
You think so?
Just because,
Really?
Again, I don't think there'll be the same amount of pressure on the refs to influence the game one way or another based on the atmosphere.
Can you imagine hearing that dumbass Vikings horn going off with just no one in the stadium? Stupid.
Anyway, let me ask you one question in return before we wrap this up. Would you go to an NFL stadium with social distancing in place? You can't sit next to your friends or your family that you go to the game with.
You mean you're saying like 6 feet apart from everybody?
Yeah, maybe there's 2 seats or 3 seats between each person.
I mean, honestly, that could be tight. That's probably that would probably be like an XFL game or like an AAF game to begin with, right? Like that's probably the fan draw they get. You figure, let's say you got an 80,000 capacity stadium, you probably got maybe 10,000 people in there. That could be tight.
That could be tight. One last closing remark before we close this section out. One big thing that I didn't cover is many crowds have 45,000 up to 45,000 season ticket holders. There's stipulation that they would get first chances at social distancing, and it might come down to a lottery where they don't have enough safe seating for all season ticket holders to attend.
I mean, I feel like if we're doing that, you might as well just say no one can come to the stadium. It's just, I'm number like 300,000 on the Packers waiting list. I forget where I am. But if I was like about to get my tickets that year and I got shafted because I was on the lower end of the totem pole, I'd be upset.
Yeah, I hear you.
We'll see how it goes, and maybe we'll get some football starting on time.